Chill here with Sirius Dallas Moon, and the moon is 7 degrees Gemini. I know I have been called in the past month like a gazillion times to talk about this. This is a case in Israel that is as old as 2006. A story of murder of Tair Rada in her school, and I believe she was born in 1993. The murder was in 2006. So she would have been 13, 14 at the time of the murder. Um, 2006 was around the time when the Epstein trials began. It came about, I think the arrest of Zadorov was at around 2000, they began at around 2006-7. It was juxtaposed to case of Madeleine, and I know Madeleine was much younger. 2015 there was reopening of the case because they arrested a guy named Zadorov, very famously, kind of MK Ultra causing people to admit things they didn't do, possibility type of stuff. I'm gonna look at chart for Tair Rada. There were, how should I say that? She was murdered at school in the bathroom. 2023 there was reopening of case and vindication of Zadorov. Basically with the benefit of the doubt, and now they talk about more evidence. Again, 2006 for 2026. This is about to be a Uranus square to this. And let's begin to build the chart for Tair Rada. So this is, yeah, a lot of people associated with that. They said even at her young age she was dating multiple people, but also at the murder it was said that she was not raped. Again, it was at school. Yeah, let's take a look at Tair Rada herself. So she was born January 4, 1993 in Katzerine, Israel. I'm gonna do Horary first. The delay. Midheaven Lilith. Galactic Center, Midheaven. Midheaven Lilith. Ascendant 24. Yeah, Venus day, Venus hour. It's basically Mars night, Venus. Mars is on the IC, Venus, 0 degree Libra. Ruling Chiron. Nothing 23, nothing 11, nothing 18 in Sun, 15 degrees Leo. Venus in the 8th house. Now, let's begin to build the chart for Tair Rada. So she was born 1993. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Now, a lot of cases with these children, January 4th, a lot of cases with these children, or these youth, has to do with, let me put it that way, children that were activated sozusagen, basically trafficked children. And this is Catherine talking about ritual abuse, mind control. Again, 13 years old child having multiple dates, so to speak, is not exactly okay. Even for the Pluto Scorpio generation, there's something there that is the children that were activated, so to speak. Um, I'm going to put hi-fi. It's not going to be that much of a big difference. Um, what? It's okay. Chiron, 22 yeah, an astrologer always has multiple charts on their menu. Um, Chiron 22 in Leo, Neptune 18 degrees Capricorn, um, Lilith Pisces, Venus 29 degrees Aquarius, Saturn Aquarius, Moon 14 degrees Taurus, Ketu Gemini, Rahu 20 degrees Sag, Pluto Scorpio 24 degrees, Mars 19 degrees Cancer, Jupiter Libra. Well, Neptune Uranus, Sol Capricorn, Mercury 1 degree Capricorn. In 2006, Pluto was preparing to ingress to Capricorn. It would ingress in 2008, would already be conjoining her Mercury. If Mercury was the ruler of her chart, could be, then that could be. But it would also mean that Pluto previously went through her Ketu, and Neptune 18 degrees, a mystery to do with something that is toxic or evil or hidden, a hidden cause for chronic toxicity. Chiron 22 is a wound around somebody being murdered, kind of a kill or to kill, kill or be killed type of. The sun ruled by Saturn, Saturn in Aquarius, Saturn applying to oppose Chiron. 2030 is going to be important in that regard. Actually, 2019 was important. or the times where we had Rahu return for this case, which probably reopened as a door of case, and then in 2023 he would be vindicated. And the Leo, the Pisces Virgo was also important axis, which is why we got the 2015 reopening. Okay, that would be squaring. That would be nodes squaring the nodes. Now, Neptune Saturn can have to do with mysterious death or mystery along a Saturn cycle. So it can be around the Saturn return for a case. Now it would be Uranus square to 2006, where we would have had Uranus at Aquarius, sorry. Between Aquarius and Pisces, that would be the time of the back and forth between Aquarius and Pisces. 2010-11, it would be between Pisces and Aries. Uranus was going from 4th to 5th degree with the reopening of the case. Again, Neptune Saturn delays, long sentence for the people that were convicted, and then the conviction being upturned. It's type of that Neptune is probably Neptune Uranus conjunction. They're probably doing that revolution, evolution. To solve this case, we would need to address outer planets Neptune and Uranus. Where's Mars? Mars, Moon. Yeah, Venus is also ruled by Saturn, so we need to address all the outer planets. So we would need to address Neptune can be intelligence, Uranus can be revolution, gas companies, energy. Well, the energy is gas, energy infrastructure of gas, the discovery of gas. Again, Rada was very likely used for something like coerced or mind-controlled type of honeypotting, or as weird as kind of Peter ring type of thing. Like I said, it's the Israeli Madeleine. And the structures that generate those things are at questions. Like to deal with that, we would need to deal with the structure. Everything here says structure. Decentralized structure with Saturn in Aquarius, but it also has a pyramidal, decentralized structure ruling over a pyramidal structure. Okay, Saturn in Aquarius, decentralized structure ruling over the outer planets in Capricorn, which is a pyramidal structure. So one thing, a decentralized structure ruling over a pyramidal structure can't get more gate than that. And again, the reopening of the files, Neptune kind of gives this leaking or reopening of the valves. Uranus won't let things stay stagnant. The Zadorov case is a source of change in the way we see life imprisonment, not just prison, but life imprisonment. Um, I don't remember the Norway case that was also putting life imprisonment into question. I don't know if it wasn't still with Saturn in Aquarius or even Saturn in Balgidi. I wouldn't be surprised. That was, I think, a year or two later. It was the Norway's 9/11, where there was a guy that was a serial killer, but he was doing kind of like a shooting in a youth school in a country that was absolutely not prepared to even have anything more than life sentence. A life sentence would have been 20 years, and that's. But with case of what happens when the wrong person is in prison for a life sentence, probably kind of a calling to make prison more like Norwegian prison, if that makes sense. And at the same time, the Uranus won't let things be stagnant, so it wouldn't let things be done in the sense that it wouldn't let the case rest when the case is not resolved. And now we are addressing that at the Uranus square. By the way, 2023 was building up to the Uranus going through Beta Persei. Rahu already, I think Rahu is already in Mula Nakshatra, or about to enter Mula Nakshatra. In the last decan of Sagittarius, Chiron 22. It could have been a case. Okay, we do see the Venus-Pluto square. Mars trine Pluto, Venus-Pluto square. Chiron squares Pluto. Chiron square Pluto. Venus square Pluto can give us a lot of oscillations, conflicts, obsessions. Chiron square Pluto. There could have been a matter of the heart that ended up being lethal. Sun, middle decan, Capricorn. A matter of the heart that was lethal. Somebody was a father. Okay, I will tell you what I received in the ether. Somebody was a father. Somebody couldn't be with someone because they were a father, and it wasn't clear whose father. And another thing, there was a joke that was coming up about where will the plane land. Um, Sol Uranus. Um, somebody was somebody. How should I say that? There was a matter of the heart. There was a lethal. Somebody was a father. Perhaps, perhaps there was an issue of somebody being a father and Tair Rada being young, or Tair Rada being a girl. Because these ritual-based mind control things are also extortion cults, and they are playing it like a honeypot, but she was just 13, and they wanted to portray her in a certain way, so they would do the mind control so that she would have kind of like, lovers flocking around, but she was 13. So there was something there. There were um, um, I don't know. Soul co-present with Uranus and Neptune can give unusual. For example, Britney Spears had Sol Uranus. Sol Neptune can give something to do with the patrilineage, to do with Peter Reeves. I'm not saying her father. I'm saying the patrilineage, and it can be that she was juxtaposed to a father, or that they tried to use her to blackmail a father. Um, or that or somebody who was a father was activating her, so to speak. Um, Somebody didn't see who they are with is another thing I'm receiving here. Again, I don't have a Senate in media event. Um, Venus Pluto can give something around values, something around the voice, where there's a power struggle. Another thing that came in recent days was somebody having power and somebody having money being two different people. Um, Occult and eroticism was playing strong here. Somebody's heart was clear. Somebody's heart was clear. Somebody's heart was not coming to violate or be violated. Lilith Fomalhaut, conjunction, psychic, the woman that will not, the psychic woman that will not be subjugated. But again, this is a girl. Before a murder, she said she was fearing death. When they asked what do people fear, um, Mars, Uranus, Neptune opposition, Mars, Sol opposition. Mars in Cancer. Current transits, well, we're gonna have an eclipse opposing this Venus. We had an eclipse around this Venus. Um, um, and somebody couldn't be with somebody because of a structure, because they didn't want it to end up in a disaster or a lethal disaster. And something could have been strong attraction that was um, not necessarily the unusual, in the sense that, how should I say that? We're not talking about, when I say strong attraction, I'm not talking about the Lolita case. So, but again, Sol, Uranus, Neptune, Venus, Aquarius, Lilith, Pisces, Jupiter, Middle Decan, Libra. She was trafficked in some sort of a hidden or non-visible way. Um, Carbon, Gemini, 20 degrees Gemini. Mercury, 1 degree Capricorn. People want to know a name, but it's a structure. People want to know a name, but it's a structure. Um, Venus 29, she could have had predictive qualities. There was maybe an attempt to activate her relational part of the chart, because there was a value of prediction. So people may wanted to predict the timeline, or choose timelines and predict what will happen, and therefore they juxtaposed her in relationships, multiple relationships for multiple timeline, or decentralized relationships. Um, She could have had a powerful voice. There could have been a dynamic, control dynamic around the voice, around the values, around relations, or possible significant other, although she was very young. Mars Uranus opposition. Again, energy companies, revolution, gas companies, revolutions, gas infrastructure, intelligence, revolutionizing something. Sun could be leaders, but it's a separating aspect from the sun. Moon is a point of Talis. Chiron 22 and around Aries was trining this Chiron. This was when Zadorov was beginning to be vindicated. There was also a wound around the personality of a kill or be killed persona, or decentralized structure ruling over a centralized structure, or pyramidal structure. Chiron here, I think, is Magha. Very likely to do with the Epstein list type of thing. She probably was one of the children that were activated schools. Okay, think Rockefeller schools for education system. Changes in the education systems, perhaps wanting to put cameras, but here in the bathroom cells. Okay, trying to spark a need to put cameras inside the bathroom cells of a school. Okay, to just so we think about the type of imprisonment, schools, cameras inside the bathroom. Some is very invasive. An attempt to justify that level of control and visibility in people's life. Um, um, yeah, and there was a play on somebody being too young or somebody being a child. But this was also, how should I say that? Sudden personality blends. and having to do with life energy, Kundalini rise, and sexual energy. Because of a decentralized structure ruling a centralized structure. Could have been esoterics, could have been egregore. Um, there can be certain personas that were trying to be ethical and had these sudden things and at the same time like wanting to prevent a disaster, but yeah, definitely the Saturn here needs to be exposed. So it's the structure, the hidden decentralized structure ruling over the pyramidal structure needs to be exposed. And that's what the Kundalini rise was about. So for example, another thing that came up, and I don't know how is that to do with Rada specifically, but it could have been people that were juxtaposed to our energy in some way, perhaps even adult people, and that could have been and that could have been I'm sorry, but the sex magic being used to this to dissolve the decentralized structure ruling over the centralized structure. And in that case, analyzing Tair Rada was not helpful. Like the spark was already sparked in that sense. Or it's kind of like, you know, with manifestors, like, oh, somebody already orgasmed on that manifestation. Now it's the telic is telic now. You can like, they could kill the body, but the telic is still telic. They won't let go of that case, and they won't resolve that case until that spark is incarnated, is manifested in reality. Ketu is going to go over this Chiron again. We might be dematerializing the wound here. Um, um, it's also possible that they didn't want her to see certain stuff. Sun is a luminary. They didn't want her to see certain structure, but the spark has not to do with that. It's not what she would see because the manifestation was already there, and they didn't want her to see certain structure. It can be that there was something even frictional that caused something of the heart to do with somebody, to do with that structure of structures, and they didn't want her to see that. They didn't want her to end up badly. There could also be something in the astral, something in the ether, something that they had to surrender, something where the spark was already sparked, or something that um, Moon Taurus is on the decan of willing consent. Venus, ruling Jupiter. To have a partner, she would need to have willing consent. Would be an emotional need to do with the partner that is incredibly important. She could have had premonitions or predictions about it. Like she knew that she couldn't be with somebody without willing consent. It is something in her that was not a honeypot, because willing consent that doesn't work with honeypots. So structure had to collapse, and she could have had a premonition about that. Again, she was very young. I don't know if she at that age knew it or saw it. And to have, how should I say, any willingly consensual sex would be sparking the spark that would dissolve the energy infrastructures and school infrastructures. Saturn can also be banking, what people call deep state, whatever the fuck is deep state. I mean, um, occult, occult infrastructure um, is kind of like, hey, that person couldn't be with someone on a honeypot setting. It could also have been the reason why there were many possible lovers, because to actually and have that something that is that is, then the things that were using her as a, or that were attempting to use her as honeypot had to go, and that would have been something that would be way big. But to kill her wouldn't help. Would the killing her did not prevent anything in that regard. Okay, it's kind of like, with this combination. This is why when I was approached with the Tair Rada case, I was like, it's the Israeli form around, it's the Israeli Madeleine, it's just like, I mean, come on, it's the Epstein. Like, what do you want me to name and name? It's a structure, and it's the infrastructure that causes this. And that chart really speaks volumes about it. The name is a relation. What type of relation? This relation could only have been secure attachment relation. But if it couldn't be, then anything that prevents it has to fall. And killing Tair Rada is not going to resolve, is not going to prevent everything that tries to prevent love that is actually loving from collapsing in the world. Um, Yeah. Definitely with this combination, she wouldn't be with love that is not actually loving. Mars, Pluto, trine. Age 12, 13, 12, 13. Approaching the first Saturn square. This would have been either a sadicity for her. Moon square Saturn, Moon trine Mars, Moon sextile Mars, Moon trine Uranus. Lilith funnel out. Again, a psychic, something psychic that would not be subjugated. It is possible that it is possible that they tried to, I'm sorry, program her and something around her would not be subjugated and it didn't play the part. Like she could be flirtatious, as weird as it sounds for a child. She could be she could be looking like she's playing on a fantasy, but she was not a honeypot. And she wouldn't grow to be a honeypot. And at that time, it was the serious cases with the Epstein files. So, um, Mars, Uranus, opposition. Jupiter in a T square with Mars and Uranus. It reminds me also of Cassandra case. This is true. Yes, Cassandra had Rahu and Ketu on that axis of, I think it was the 22 of Leo and Aquarius. It's a Dutch case. Um, Venus Pluto could have been an argument or power struggle Um, there could have been something. I don't know. Um, Something psychically or astrally was sudden and unusual. It could have to do with a father. Not saying her father, but something to do with somebody that was a father, or that was supposed to father her in some way or some hidden way. Um, I don't know if it's a day chart or a night chart. Um, age 12, 13, she would have only gotten to her first Rahu Ketu reversal, so Rahu would have been around Gemini. Um, Again, it doesn't have to be Gemini, but it's closer to Gemini, closer to a Rahu Ketu reversal. Unfortunately, Rahu Ketu reversal has a signification of going where we came from. Um, she could have come from a certain decentralized structure. Um, mhm. Um, Unfortunately, Neptune here can also mean sacrifice due to some evil Saturn related, because it's the Saturn ruled Neptune. Hidden secret society to do with evil sacrifices to evil, um, that could have been associated with the death. Chiron is the 22 here. I'm sorry, but it could have been that somebody that loved her had to sacrifice her to this evil. Because, or It was the beginning of the trials of Epstein. They maybe thought that they would prevent something, but they didn't. They didn't prevent the trials of Epstein, let's say. Again, I'm not saying it was him. I'm saying that the people associated with that, or the structure associated with that. Uh, yeah, she could have been reluctant to be subjugated to that structure. And this was a value for her. It could also have been that she didn't agree to do something. It could also have been that she didn't agree to do something. Um, she didn't agree to be evil or to sacrifice for evil. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there could have been things that were done and then when a person is dissociated, but it could also have been something that she didn't agree to do when she was dissociated. Like all of these things are possible. I mean, um, okay, Mars Uranus hard aspects can be um, some sort of fierce action or an argument around rebellion itself. What would be considered rebellious? What could be considered liberation? And here the value was love that is actually loving. Moon Middle Deacon of Taurus is, very simply put, as weird as it sounds in these ages, the scent of willing consent. So this was not this was not somebody compatible to be a honeypot. Um, Not that anybody is, but it is